Welcome to the Radiate Health and Wellness Podcast. I'm your host, Christine D. Ross, and today we are diving deep into an insightful conversation ahead. Joining us is Charelle Zimnicki, who will be sharing her personal story through the emotional and complex landscape of anticipatory grief. And you may be asking, what is anticipatory grief? Well, it's grieving for someone who is still alive. It's confronting the anticipation of a significant loss. It's a roller coaster of emotions that can set you on ups and downs and highs and lows that can be unpredictable. So there's 5 stages that most people go in and out of. You may not hit all the stages. So the stages are denial, anger, bargaining, or just like seeking control of the uncontrollable, depression, and acceptance. So anticipatory grief, it can be about grieving for loss of something about yourself. Say, like for cancer, breast cancer, for instance, it can be having that diagnosis and grieving the loss of what's going to happen, grieving from everything from the possibilities of the loss of your own life to possibly living a life with a mastectomy and how that might change your life. If you're not a mother yet, so that could mean not being able to breastfeed your baby and grieving just those physical limitations. So anticipatory grief isn't only about yourself, and usually it's not. I just wanted to make way because I feel like it is important to be able to grieve the loss of what is happening to yourself. But usually it's about grieving for someone else. For instance, like all of us are children, born and raised. We know, one thing that we've been guaranteed our whole entire life is we will die, and everyone that we know will die. And so that comes with more of being in midlife and starting to anticipate the loss of our parents. So for me, my mom has been going through some struggles with life and has even forewarned me that she feels like her life's not going to extend much farther. But it didn't really hit me, this anticipatory grief, until news of my father-in-law, who has really been, just a great inspiration of a true dad to me. I've known him and he's been part of my life since I was 16 years old. In a way, I grew up going on camping trips and stuff and seeing him as my dad. So he's recently been diagnosed with esophagus cancer with stage 3. He's gone through, and this has been such a roller coaster. All this has happened in the last 2 months, gone through the chemo and the radiation treatments. That hasn't quite worked. It's progressed, metastasized into a stage 4 and is affecting other parts of his body. And I'm just in so many emotions myself, as well as other family members, going through all of these different stages of grief. And I just want to help. I just knew that there was a beacon of light out there somewhere that has gone through this, that can share their experience with me, with my family, for all of those that are out there experiencing something similar to this. And so just a week or 2 ago, I was invited to be on another podcast. Nothing about health and wellness, even though I think that's kind of where it steered to be. But that's where I met Charelle. And in between the podcast, just having our private conversations, we went deep and started communicating and talking about this grief, and she related that just recently, a year ago or so, she went through a very similar experience with her mom. And so I would like to introduce you to Charelle. Her story is one of profound love and resilience. Her reflections will resonate with so many who have faced or are facing similar challenges. And so I welcome you, Charelle, to our podcast.
Aloha. Thank you so much, Christine. It's an honor to be here to, help and to be a part of what you're trying to build as a community and as a on your wellness podcast as like a resource, or just to let anyone know that no, you're not alone. People, this is life, and people have to go through the waves, and if we can all lift each other, I think that's what we're here for. And I thank you very much for having me here to share my story, and hope that I can relate to your family, to your friends, and to any of your listeners.
Well, thank you so much for being here. So, Charelle, first, I just want to start by asking you a question that I like to ask all my guests.
Sure.
What does it mean to you to radiate health and wellness?
Right. So health and wellness. So to radiate health and wellness, thank you for asking the question. I think it's a very important one, especially with what I had gone through over the last 2 years. I had lost my partner as well as my mother. And, so to radiate health and wellness means to dig deep inside, to find myself in a place that I never thought I would be, having to face, with the death, felt like it was sudden. Anticipatory grief, right? It's a hard one to, that someone that you've known all your life could suddenly become sick, and you can't control that. So what's radiating health, what that meant for me was to be able to be strong, know that, deep inside I have whatever it is in me in order to get through it, to be strong for my family, for my friends, for myself, and to be able to have it in me to I had to dig in. I knew it was in there. I went through a depression after my partner passed away, and then a year later, my mom. And so, radiating for me means finding the light within yourself, and knowing that I have the tools. I've worked on myself, and I knew I had the tools within me to dig myself out of the deep darkness, find light in myself to make sure that I'm okay, and to make sure that I am not going to completely fall apart, even though it was the hardest part of my life. And, just know that I have a community around me that loves and supports me. And every day I start with a gratitude meditation, and part of it is giving thanks for being here and for everything that I've gone through, and knowing that I am enough to make it through whatever life is going to throw at me next. And that through my struggles and through my accomplishments and my triumphs, I'll be able to help other people and radiate love and support, just like everyone has showed me.
Wow, that's beautiful. Sum it up, the simplicity of to radiate your light. It's beautiful. So today, we are talking about a very deep emotional subject, and to feel free for tears might shed, and just be able to go within, and like you just shared, you're worth it. And everybody out there that's listening to this, for them to be able to feel the energy coming from you, and the love and the support, and know that they're not alone, just definitely appreciate you being here and sharing what you have to share. You wrote a very beautiful email to me this morning, or at least I read it this morning, where you talked about all the different stages that you went through. Do you mind walking through those, starting with just what you experienced? I mean, both with your mom and with your partner, just starting in the stage of denial.
Yes. Sure. So with denial, so when my mom, you know, I when my mom was diagnosed with MDS, which is I think it's a pre-leukemia state of cancer. It was hard. It was a hard pill to swallow. It didn't seem real because my mom was she was super mom, right? Like she was always out. She was very social. She was a real estate broker in the Big Island, which is kind of funny because I was showing houses in the Big Island. Like, you guys have to go through overgrown woodsy areas, acres of land, to show your clients. And I'm picturing my mom doing this, and this is it can be hard and challenging. So I always saw my mom as this person who will overcome anything and everything. When she was diagnosed with MDS, I was in denial because I said, you know what, there's no way. And if anyone could beat it, I told myself from the time she got diagnosed to maybe a couple days before she passed away, that if anyone could beat cancer, it's my mom. And so I planted that seed in my head, along with the hope that she was going to come out of it, and whatever treatment she receives, her body will receive it and turn it into more blood cells, in order for her to go into remission. So I held on to I was just in denial. I knew it was there, but she was so optimistic too. We were so optimistic about this because she was so strong all her life that she was going to get through it.
So would you say that as you were going through this denial stage, you're being optimistic of what was going on, wanting, just hoping for the best outcome, but at the same time, were you preparing yourself for the worst outcome?
I honestly, I was holding on to the optimism. I very much was like, no, it's not going to happen. So I didn't, and honestly, I didn't really prepare myself to accept that the worst case, her passing away and not beating cancer, would come.
Wow. So just moving on with anger, did you experience much anger?
Yes, I was very upset with the healthcare system. I didn't know who to blame, right? I wanted someone to blame, even though it was like maybe not the right mindset to have, the right thing to do. It's not productive to be upset and without knowing about really what this cancer is, what this sickness is, and then what options there are, what other resources and options, what chemo. I didn't even know what chemo is or was. To be honest, I just knew that this is something that her doctors were suggesting that she do. She would have to take early on. Early on, they were just saying, hey, you need to come into the doctor's office. We'll take some blood, and then we'll give you your results maybe a week later. So I became upset about that because I didn't see a way forward. I just saw them, booking calendar appointments to take blood and to give results. But then at the appointments, it was just, that's all it was. It was taking the blood and then giving the results. But then I would ask, what can we do? What can my mom do in order to help her situation, to improve her conditions? And the doctors, they would prescribe. I'm sorry, I don't know what pill they prescribed her, but they would prescribe her pills, maybe a cocktail of pills, and let us know that, hey, go ahead and take these. We'll schedule you in for her next appointment, and then if she feels really sick, we'll go to the hospital. Where at the hospital, they would give her pints of blood. And so I was very upset that it just felt like we were a number for a patient that was really seeking help, that was honestly asking for advice other than take pills and go to the hospital if needed. And I wish that I had done better research, but at the time, I didn't know what to do. I felt very helpless. And I became very controlling of the situation because I didn't understand. I didn't understand how this sickness would affect my mom and how quickly it would progress. And I didn't know what treatment would be best for her and her body. I think that's very important for everyone to consider is pills are not a one fits all size. Everyone has a different regimen that will work for them. And that's my understanding, and that's what I've come up with in my own struggles with lupus. I have lupus. And I was prescribed a pill, and I got off the pill and am now in remission with that because I chose to do more research and to choose a path of eating healthy, of exercise, of keeping my stress levels down. I wish that I had applied what I was doing for myself for my mom, but it just seems like her timing was moving a lot quicker, as far as her life. And I was in panic mode.
Sure. So, from what I'm getting is, so your anger of not knowing what was really going on and really not having faith and trust in the healthcare system, you try to take control and take charge by doing some research and just trying to figure out things on your own. What did you learn by just that experience alone that you can share with others to help others that are in that denial stage and in anger and bargaining with, this isn't right, and just seeking that control to control what's not controllable? What advice can you give them?
What I would say is, and what I have become better at, is figuring out what can you control versus what you cannot. For what you cannot control, I would advise everyone to maybe breathe through it and try your best to let it go. I know it's easier said than done. And then for the things that you can control, like going home and doing your own research, reading books, reaching out to therapists, wellness coaches, friends, reaching out to your community. Those are things you can control, and trying to gain a little bit more knowledge or information on whatever challenges it is you're facing, or whatever struggles, whether it's illness or just like preparing for something that you don't know a lot about. I think it's important to know that there's always going to be things that is going to be out of your control. So maybe a good thing to do, something that really works for me and my peers, is writing down our thoughts, journaling, and really putting down on paper what we're feeling, why we're feeling this way, and then make a plan of action so that you gain some clarity within yourself, and maybe in that it will bring some calm And these are things that I've learned through my experience. Like I said, it's been a work in progress. When my mom was going through it, and especially so soon after my partner had passed away, I kind of was just in a state of chaos, to be honest. And so this has been a work in progress. But now that I'm working through it, I'm working through acceptance. I'm learning all these tools and I'm applying it to my daily practice in order to move forward and know that maybe, if you have a parent that is really sick and you want to control everything, maybe that's not the best thing to do. I would also and looking at your loved one and having a open conversation with your loved one and say, how would you like me to help? Because I think because I was in such denial and because I was upset, I was projecting, and I might have caused more stress on my family and on my mom, because I was so I was projecting that fear, which didn't help.
So from what I'm hearing is to go in and do your own work, to where journaling was a huge tool for you, and just sitting quiet and finding your own answers, to be able to work on yourself first, and then that way you were able to go and spend more quality time and actually be with your mom, and instead of taking charge of what you're supposed to be doing for her, you surrendered and asked. So when you asked, what can I do for you, what was her answer?
It was literally just come visit, come like put lotion on her back. It was very simple things, actually, but it was things that I oversaw because I thought that what she needed was no one to be there. Well, because my understanding, again, this is why I needed to do more research, and people should do more research on whatever it is they're facing. I thought because her immune system was so weak that it would be trouble if, I'm coming over to the hospital where she's isolated and safe, and I'm coming from work where I meet 100 people a day. I was afraid to come in person in fear of getting her sick. And so when I asked what could I do, it wasn't to hound the doctors, it wasn't to take control of the appointment, it was just spend more time with your mother.
That's so important. In those dying time, nothing else mattered but that quality time of the loved ones around her, the time spent with her own daughter. Is there any tools, any deep conversations that you had or you wish that you would have had with her?
I mean, we had conversations here and there, just a little reminiscing and stuff like that. But again, I was in denial for so long. She entered the hospital system in November. She came to Oahu and immediately started chemo. And it was from November through March. I was just in this huge denial state. I was like, no, my mom's going to make it. So I never really brushed on conversation that the what if she doesn't. I think she tried to go there, but I was like, nope, you're gonna make it out of it. You're gonna make it out of it, period. The very last day, so she went through 3 rounds of chemo, and in the last round of chemo, it was the results day that progressed her illness. It went really quickly after we got the results. One, they said that it didn't work and her cancer blast cells are very aggressive, and we can no longer provide treatment. We will need to talk about hospice care. And as soon as we rolled out of the office, it was then my mom was preparing us that, okay, this is it. Please, take care of each other. Look out for each other. Saying all these things. She also recorded videos for each of her kids, kind of, and wrote us letters. And she ended up in the hospital that night, and I was there. She was trying to leave, and I did not let her. I woke her up, and I was like, no, please stay. I was like, I'm calling everyone. They will be here tomorrow. Everyone flew in from the Big Island the next morning. The very first flight, everyone was here. They got to spend a day with her. And then the following day after, she had passed away on my lunch break. And it was a crazy experience. I was supposed to see her at 5 p.m. that day. I told her I would come after work. But I was driving, running an errand, and I was like, you know what? I'm so close to the hospital, I'm just going to go see my mom. It was 1 p.m. And I walked in, and that was it. So I think that a lesson that I can take away and maybe can speak to anyone listening is, even though it's very hard to navigate your own emotions in these moments, do your best to listen to your loved one. They know best. They know their body. They know that if they're saying that it's time, it very might well be time. And I say that because for months, from November through March, I was like, no, no, no. And because of my own emotions and my own denial and being upset with everything I could not control, it led me to staying away from the hospital, spending time with my mom, because I thought that I can control a situation and not get my mom sick. And if I did that, then she would still be here.
You talk about listening to your intuition. It really is this roller coaster of everything's okay. We're hoping for the best. You can do it. You're a survivor. You're the warrior. But over on the other side, right, it's the fears and worries of just the depth of the pain that they're going to go through, and uncomfortable are they going to be, and how soon is their transition from this life to the next. I mean, just all these unknown answers. So somewhere in this roller coaster, is there a way to find a balance of the two and looking into your intuition? You're going deep within. Did you ever find like that balance?
At the time, I can honestly say no. I didn't. I struggled finding that balance at the time. When we got the last up to the point where we received the last round of results, even my mom was very optimistic about her own health. And no later than 2 days later, she had passed away. So, in the moments, I felt very off kilter. I felt very off balance. I felt like I got spun around, with a blindfold on, and, take it off, and there's my reality. And the reality was that I think there was a lot of telltale signs that this could possibly be it, but I never found my grounding with that. And I think a lot of it is because I was going through these stages of grieving that and everything was so quick. It just happened so quickly that it was so compounded. Like all these emotions, every emotion I felt. I felt love, I felt joy with my mom. I felt optimistic. I felt sadness. I felt anger. I felt every emotion, on the spectrum, every single thing I felt in such little time. And so during those months, I felt very off balance because it was just such a pull with, I know my mom has cancer, but also I was so optimistic that she was going to beat it. It was such a heavy, sad thing, but also this huge, huge thing, that belief and hope and optimism that she was going to beat it. It wasn't until months afterwards that I was starting to find balance, and that came with that came after a few months of not talking to anyone, isolating, it kind of just being in this like this depressed stage and not really wanting to reach out to anyone, talk to anyone, because I was having trouble processing my own emotions and I was having a hard time even reflecting on it, because a lot of the times I was saying, how could it be that she went from being so optimistic, healthily strong, to not being here today? How could it be? And so I didn't find my balance, and it's a daily struggle. I'm still finding balance every day.
What do you find that lifts you out of that depression? You say every day you go into it a little bit. What's that daily thing that you can do that lifts you out?
I start every day with I wake up, I take my dog out. I got a dog after my partner passed away, and it was the best thing I could do. I can't imagine not having a dog. The dog is what helped me get out. The dog is what reminds me that she needs to go potty, so I should get out of bed, take her outside, go for a walk. When she needs water, it reminds me I should probably drink some water too. When she has breakfast, I have breakfast too. So that was, very, very helpful. And then for my daily practice, I think about it. Before, it used to be dark and heavy, and it would be a struggle to get out of bed. But what has really helped me was just being consistent with a routine has really helped. And then also celebrating her life versus rehashing the last few months of her life in my head and why it went wrong, and how upset I was, and how heavy the emotions were at the time. So what's been really, sorry, to answer to your question, to what really helps me is having building a stronger routine and foundation for myself. And I think about her every day, but I think about everything she has built for myself and my family. I remind myself that I'm very grateful to be here. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for meeting wellness coaches and therapists, having a great community behind me, and just knowing that it's going to get better. It's not going to change anything, but the emotions will balance itself out, and every now and then it will be heavier than others, and I've learned to accept that and to know that because I have built myself up and I'm strong most days, it kind of gives me peace and I can gracefully grieve on the days that are bad, because I know that I have enough in myself to pull myself out of the heaviness.
So is it fair to say that really it's purpose that gets you out? You talk about your dog and how he's the one that motivates you, but at the same time, you get to up each day and feed him breakfast, take him for a walk. And so I mean,
Yes.
just that, what a amazing relationship that it's a win-win. And I see another big aha for you is reaching out and getting support, talking to people, letting it out, not being alone. So, is there any other messages that you can share with that one person that's out there listening to this right now that is just waiting to hear a message that will really assist them in this time of grief? What is your message to them?
Well, my message is that you don't always have to be in control. You don't always have to be the strong one. I know some of us feel like they need to be that person. I think it's important to feel your emotions and share them. It's okay to be vulnerable. We're all human. And I think through our vulnerabilities, that will allow us to figure out, what will be best for us to move forward, either individually or with your family or your loved ones. I would also say that treat yourself with kindness. Anticipatory grief and grief in general is, there's 5 stages for a reason, and you might bounce around. You might not go through every single one of them in order. You might bounce around, and sometimes you will come to the point of stage 5, which is acceptance. But even at the acceptance stage, you will have days where it will be dark, and you might feel like everything is against you. But, as long as you are kind to yourself and reach back into your toolbox, and reach out to your community, you'll be okay.
Wow. Thank you so much for that empowering message. I'm excited to see the comments and share them with you of what you have brought out to the world, just the different healing strategies to be able to cope. So thank you. Charelle, is there
Yes.
any last little messages or anything else that you would like to share?
Well, I actually have a question for you. Yes. So, after hearing my story and having gone through struggles of your own, what advice would you give me, or would you give someone in the position that I have experienced and that um, your your family or your friends might be experiencing? What would you give advice on?
The advice without wanting to give advice that I will share is you know your own answers. Take that time, go within, go internal, whether it's meditating, prayer, yoga, taking a walk, whatever it is that allows you to really converse with your own deeper thought, to find yourself within there and find your answers, find where you get to go from there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. And again, thank you for creating a platform, a place where people can learn about, what it is to radiate health and wellness. I need to listen to more of your podcasts. I meant to. I really like your website and all the information, all the blogs. You have a lot of information on your website. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for supporting and just being a part of this with me. No,
Thank you,
it's
Christine.
very nice to be able to, like, you sharing your messages allows other people to not be alone in this. And by you being with me allows me to not be alone in sharing messages of health and wellness. think at times we all feel alone in what we're doing, and to be able to have some community, whether it's through podcasts or just, having simple conversations, to just have some assistance, not be doing this alone. As much as, it's really not that much fun for me to look at the computer screen and talk to myself for a half hour doing my own podcast. To have your support and being here with me and assisting me to just spread healing. And so thank you. I definitely appreciate you being here and being the beautiful soul that you are and radiating your health and wellness insights into the world.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this heartfelt episode where Charelle shared her powerful story and invaluable insights on navigating anticipatory grief. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with someone who might benefit from these messages. You never know whose life might change. Together, let's create the ripple effect of positive change in the world. I would also love to hear your questions, comments about this podcast, and suggestions for future episodes. And to further your health and wellness journey, please check out my book, Discover the Adventure of You. It's available on Amazon and all major book platforms, as well as visit my website, radiatehealthandwellness.com, to read inspirational blog posts, explore healthy recipes, and learn more about my coaching practice. Please don't forget to follow and subscribe to the Radiate Health and Wellness podcast on Spotify and YouTube so you never miss an episode. Your support means the world to me. Mahalo for listening. Please take care of yourself and continue radiating health and wellness in all that you do.